Hello, today you're going to get to see me assemble the second half of this engine. The first video we did, I did the bottom end. This video, you'll see me put the head on, put the oil pan on, basically assemble the whole complete rest of the engine. When I was doing this video, I needed it off my bench. I needed it out of my way. The day that I picked to do this, I was not in a good mood, and it ended up being very obvious in the video. It is what it is. Watch the video, enjoy it. Maybe poke fun of me a little bit in the comments. I got pretty thick skin, doesn't bother me. Off to my left, you can see some parts scattered across the workbench. That's a project Dylan and I are currently working on. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, ring the bell if you want to be notified when we get some more videos coming out. There's 3 or 4 coming in the near future on that. In the meantime, kick your feet up and enjoy the video. In the last video, we went over how I screwed up the measurement on the piston protrusion, and I was suspecting number 1 rod could be slightly bent. Well, I ordered 2 used rods off of eBay. I pulled this number 1 rod out, set them all on the bench next to each other, measured them. I didn't do anything crazy to measure them. I used a dial caliper, which isn't probably the most accurate measurement in the world, but what I did was I measured them just from the bottom of the pin bore to the, I guess it would be the top of the rod bearing bore. And both of the new connecting rods were a couple thousand shorter with the wear that was in the pin bore. So I took and put the old one back in there. That was probably still newer than the new ones that I bought. And with the piston protrusion that it has right now, the thickness of the head gasket, I measured the head gasket with a micrometer. It measures 52 thousandths with very light tension because I didn't want to damage the Vite and rubber coating that's on the surface of the gasket. So realistically, with it compressed, and if I would have cranked down on the micrometer to the actual tension I should have to get my measurement, it probably would have been closer to 48 or 52, or 48 or 50, not 52. But at 52, you subtract the spec, which the high end of the spec is 29. 52 minus 29 is 23, which is exactly what the protrusion is. So I am fairly confident that this is not going to be an issue, but I guess keep watching and we'll find out. So let's put this thing together. I've already cleaned the deck surface off with a rag and some brake cleaner. I've also already cleaned the head off with a rag and some brake cleaner. So all I'm going to do is put some oil on these head bolts. I've already cleaned them up in the parts washer. I'll put a dab of oil on the head where the head of the bolt goes. Okay, there's a tightening sequence for these. The top one's for the 3-cylinder, the bottom one's for the 4-cylinder. Obviously this is a 3-cylinder, so we'll be using the top one. I'm going to start at 30 and work my way up. Now I'm going to go to 40. now to 50. So the torque spec is like 50 or 47 point something to 50.6. So we're going to 50.6 or 50 because I don't have 0.6. And that's that. It does say you're supposed to retorque them after 30 minutes of run time, so that'll be good times. We'll have to take it all apart and take the rocker arms off and retorque them, I guess. Oh well, whatever. So now the next thing to do is put the push rods in. Add a little bit of oil. Drop them in the holes. Add a bit more oil. We got to put the lash caps on. I'm going to oil these a bit. Special ed. Pay attention to what you're doing. But now that the furnace decided I wanted to kick on, so it's going to make some noise for a little bit, so I'm going to shut the cameras off and come back when it shuts off, because you guys are not going to be able to hear me very well. Okay, well, I'm back. I'm going to put some oil under the tip of the rocker arms, on top of the lash caps. I'm going to dab a little on the threads, the studs that hold the rocker arms on. And we'll bolt these guys down. The torque spec on these was, I think, 228 inch-pounds is what it calculated out to. It was 19 foot-pounds. So I'm going to make sure I draw these down carefully and evenly before I go cranking on anything. Like so. The valve lash spec is 5 to 7 thousandths. I'm just going to check it and make sure it's close. Being that we got to retorque the head after 30 minutes, probably be just wise to make sure it's close now and actually adjust it after we take it all apart and put it back together. Yeah, it's not close. So I guess we're adjusting it now too. Setting it to 5,000s. I'm a tighter valve lash is better kind of guy. Five fits, 7 doesn't. I'm happy with it. Five fits, 7 doesn't. 5 fits, 7 fits. And that falls on the floor. Five fits, 7 doesn't. Five fits, 7 doesn't. 5 fits, 7 fits. Five fits, 7 does not. All I'm doing to adjust these is making sure the opposing valve is open. And according to the spec, it doesn't have a different setting for intake versus exhaust, so. We're just going to reuse these injector washers. Now, I do have the technology to test these, but I don't think there's very many hours on this engine, so I'm not going to. If we put it together and it runs wonky or something, I'll pull them apart and test them. Well, I don't see a torque spec on these, so that's always nice. I'd really rather torque these, but I guess we're gonna go by feel. Not really how I'd like to do it, I'm not going gorilla tight here. I would guess I'm somewhere in the 40 foot-pound range is how tight I went with these. It's a guess though. And the washers for on top of them have 2 holes in them. And the return line goes on that. It's going to work a lot better if I put it on right side up though. And these 3 nuts go on top of that. We do have a torque spec for these. You do want to make sure you're very careful. You don't want any dirt getting in the end of these injectors. You want that hospital clean. Any dirt that does get in these nozzles will kill the tips. The torque on these nuts is 18 to 25. We're going to go for 25. I'm also holding the lines so that they don't spin, so the nut doesn't grab onto them and twist them. This is just like a bus bar between the glow plugs. You could test the glow plugs too. All you need is an ohm meter. If they test open, they're junk. Now when I hook up a glow plug relay to this thing at a later time, I'll just pull one of these nuts off and run the wire to one of them, whichever one's more convenient. I'm going to blow these lines out. I'll be right back. So I blew these lines out with compressed air. Just want to make sure there's no crud in them. Like I said, any crud that's in them that gets in the injectors will ruin the nozzles. I'm just going to leave these finger tight. Kind of looks like I should have put them in the parts washer. They're kind of gross. Because when we go to crank it up, we're going to have to bleed the air out of these, so tightening them is kind of a waste of time. So I'm just going to leave them finger tight, both sides. There's a fairly high likelihood that we're going to have to mess with them. So that's just the return line coming out of the injection pump. Any internal leakage comes out and goes through the common shared return, and then this will return to the tank. I'm going to reuse the gasket on this intake because, well, that new kit came with a crummy one. And boy, a smart guy would have put this on before he put the injector lines on. I apparently don't qualify for that. And this intake was just totally full of oil. So it got a really good bath inside and out. Now we're going to stick the valve cover on. Now I didn't put the new valve cover gasket on because the little Chinese kit that I got, the valve cover gasket in there was pretty cheesy. It was about half the thickness of the one that's in here already, so I decided I didn't want to play that game. Now there's 3 little copper washers to hopefully, in theory, keep the valve cover from leaking. Whether or not it really does, to be determined, I guess. So the torque spec on the valve cover is 72 inch-pounds. Now I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it over and get the oil pickup and the oil pan on. So the oil pickup's nice and clean. We're going to torque it at 19. Up the pan rail. Make sure we didn't leave any fuzz. I'm not sure, but it kind of looks like this thing can go on either way, which is kind of neat. I think I'm going to make it so the drain plug's on the same side as the oil filter will be. We're going to do these guys at 90 inch-pounds, which is just under 8 foot-pounds. Well, let's go ahead and stick the turbo on this hot rod. Turbo, exhaust manifold, all that happy stuff. I'm reusing the old exhaust gasket because the new one that came with the kit is wrong. Not sure what it fits, but it's not this. Not even close. So I cleaned up both surfaces. We're just going to reuse the old gasket. If it becomes a problem, we'll go to Kubota and get a gasket. We're just going to torque these at 20. At least the ones that I can reach with this thing. So the gasket came off of here is damaged. And the new one in the kit, you guessed it, is wrong. I guess the only thing I really used out of the gasket kit, was nothing, I think. I don't think I used anything out of the gasket kit. The head gasket I ordered separately, because the one that came in the gasket kit was fiber. And I don't think I used anything out of the kit, because I think I reused everything. because I didn't like anything in the kit. So that's about right. So I'm going to use a little Permatex Right stuff on the bottom of this thing. Not gobs. But enough that I'm confident it's going to seal. I don't remember how this went, but I remember it was a pain in the butt. Yep, pain in the butt. Alright, that should work. And this end of the oil line has the oil pressure switch on it. And this isn't a banjo bolt, but it's got grooves milled in the side of it. And it's got a washer on it. I'll put a washer on the bottom of it too. Snug. A little more than snug, but snug. Air tube. Put these wonderful foamy hose clamps back on. The oil pressure or the oil filter and cooler bypass. Next is the oil cooler. It's not cranked down real tight, but tight enough it's not going to fall off. Not so tight that it damages anything. And this is a remote oil filter adapter. I wish I had a oil filter adapter that just went right here. But I've looked online and I can't seem to locate one. So if anybody knows of one, perhaps send me a link or something. I'd be happy to look at it. I'd really like to just have a oil filter mounted on the engine rather than have to run plumbing and all that happy stuff. Make my life so much easier. Next, I guess we can toss the alternator on. Not really much to this. And then there's a little hook on the back. Not really a big deal, but hey, it was there, so let's put it back on. Looks like I missed a hose clamp down here. Not a big deal. Well, the gasket for that guy's not right either, so imagine that. So I guess I'm just going to put this in finger tight. I guess the last thing we're going to do is probably put the starter on here. Just going to cover these up with some masking tape so no junk gets in the oil system. Well, that's going to do it for the Kubota engine build. We'll come back to this thing when I find an oil filter set up to put on this thing and get it plumbed in and we can test run it. Pretty curious to see how it does. Fairly confident it'll run good, but we shall see. Should be fun. Should be fun to get it running and test the theory. Thanks for watching. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, please. Don't be afraid to ring the little bell down there so you get notified when I put up more videos. Thanks for watching. You guys have a good day.